We're going to talk about companies hiring and demanding degrees, because it's so important for the super creatives and creatives to learn this. As you're moving forward into the career that you want, or you're with an entrepreneur or a business, are you feeling appreciated? Are you feeling valued? Are you feeling respected? And I want all these businesses to realize that in these companies. Like, don't be that way. If you're going to build a company, somewhere at the top, I'm speaking to you and the way they function. You don't get it on your time. You get it on the creator's time. If you're going to enter the zone, you got to be abundant. You got to be ready to play at this level of expansion at a very high rate.
This is the Podcast in the Rough. Tune in every Friday for new adventurous episodes.
Welcome back to another great episode of the Podcast in the Rough. I'm your host, Zebulon Thomas, and this is episode 146. Last week, I shared a lot of information about mental health and social media, and I got a lot of reviews, a lot of DMs, a lot of great feedback from that. And I think it was a great pivotal point in this podcast season that really turned a new page. I think it got a lot of you thinking, and that's what I wanted to do. That's what I was intended for it to do. And with this episode today, this week, I wanted to jump into, more of that, but on a different level, more of the creative side. And this goes out to all my creatives and content creators and anybody who really has a job that, maybe it's pushing on them a little too hard, and maybe it's a job that they really loved. It's a career they loved, and now maybe they don't. Or maybe it's maybe you're in that amazing career or job and you absolutely love it, and some things to look out for so you don't fall into this dip, if you will, that shifts you up and takes you out of that abundance, I'm going to call it. So, and that's what it is. So I want to dive right into this topic right here, and that is the abundance zone. What is the abundance zone? A place where you got to be, where you can be more effective, you're more creative, and you work more efficient. And you will be able to do all of these things when you're operating within your abundance zone. And this is where you're passionate, where you're most passionate, I should say, about what you do. And when you're passionate about what you do, that aligns with your life's purpose and your mission and how you can then serve at your highest. So I want to talk to you about, how do you find this abundance zone? And then how do you work within that zone all the time on everything you do? Like literally, really enjoying what you do. And that is just following what it is that you want the most out of your life, following your true purpose, the things that really light you up, your passion. So it's simple to find. And that is just looking at some of the things that you do in your life that you absolutely love to do. And that could be a hobby, a craft, engaging in certain activities. What is it that really lights you up in a way that makes you feel like you're not exhausted? You could spend so much more time here. You're really happy, you're excited, it's almost spontaneous, you're creative, and at the same time, you feel like there is no time, like time doesn't exist in this space. And so you feel really, really good about it, and it serves your life's purpose. Like it aligns with where you need to be and what you're here to give, what you believe you're here for, how you give. When you find that, say in a hobby, it's where, I'm going to go do this. I've worked hard to enjoy this little bit of time. I love this, and I'm going to work here. Or I love creating this for other companies. That is the abundance zone. When you're most creative, you're not worn out when you think about things. You don't get frustrated. Like this is that energy, that zone that you need to be in to find your abundance zone. When you find that zone and all that stuff aligns, then you got to think about, what can I do to continue this, to make it more of something that I can do for my higher purpose in my life. So I want to talk about the abundance zone and having this a part of your career or your work, if you will, because it doesn't always have to be something that you make money on. But if you're an entrepreneur like me and you're a super creative, this is going to fall into that bracket for you, because it's going to be something that you are going to monetize and make a living and a career out of. And some of the things that I've had in my career and the experiences I've been through, and especially now with so many people on social media having this opportunity to become a content creator, there's creativity there, and that's what's driving you to want to create content. And maybe it's not content for yourself, maybe it's content for other people, other companies, entrepreneurs, whatever that is. So I want to talk about that. First of all, there are 3 types of creativity. There's exploratory, transformational, and combinational creativity. And you can look these up and see the definition and the whole breakdown on what this is. But I want to just go over that because a super creative will be able to really bring all of this together. And so I want to share with you what my experience has been with the top companies and brands and where my creativity has allowed me to go and the opportunities I've had, but also some of the pitfalls that I've found and what to look out for and why some of that didn't work too. Because here I am creating most amazing things for myself, being inspired by some of these creators and these celebrities and entrepreneurs and mentors that I look up to. And I'm like, wow, I would just want to be able to do that. And so I would absorb all of their content, or I'd wait for a live event, or I'd wait for a real in-person event. And I'd go there and I'd try to peek behind the curtain, if you will, and try to see what's going on behind the scenes because I didn't want to just, experience the event. I'm already there. I want to know how it's done. How do you create this magic, this experience, this energy, this force? How do you do that? And so I could not figure it out at first. And I was always guessing and I really didn't get the whole blueprint. But from what I saw, I was like, okay, I go back to the drawing board. I create this for myself and my own business and I head out in the world and I add massive value, right? I go out there and I create the experiences and it worked for me. But I'm, in my mind, I'm guessing at what I think it is. But this is where the super creative kicks in. It's where I go, okay, well, I see what I think, I see what's going on. I'm gonna visualize and imagine what's beyond that, to make that to go. What's the teamwork? What's the dream work? What type of operations are happening? Strategies? What kind of platforms they're using? What's the setup? What's the framework? What's that? And so I take these calculated guesses, if you will, and I apply them to my own life and business. And that super creative starts to piece together the puzzles. It's not just like there's an idea and there's an idea, put them together, but this is let me create something in the middle that I think this is. And so I would get to work on that and I had major success. And then I found myself getting the opportunity more and more to work with these brands and businesses and celebrities and entrepreneurs. And when I'd walk in the door, I was excited to figure out what actually is happening back here. And I go in and I'm looking at it really? That's how you do this? That's how this is done? And it was the magic was stripped from me, not in a negative way, but literally I didn't see there was any magical things happening. And the reason why is at the very beginning when I was guessing, if you would have brought me in, I would have been wow. But because my brain figured it out and created a whole new strategies and frameworks around what I thought was the thing, not only did I create exactly what they were doing because I looked at it and put the puzzle pieces together, but I advanced on that and did it better than what they were doing on my scale, okay? Obviously on my level, which is top tier for my level. So when I'm brought in as a creative strategist or head of productions, usually I was brought in both, I would apply what I've taught myself and what I've learned to what they have going on, and boom, huge things would happen. I knew how to run that more efficiently, more effectively. And now let me tell you some of the pitfalls that some of the entrepreneurs and companies found themselves in with me and why that happened. And that was so many of these companies would put restrictions on me, or they would shorten things up, or they would position me in places in their business and it would put me in a box. It would limit my creativity or my reach, or for me to grow, or for me to grow the company. And see, the companies that understood this, those brands and businesses that were big, that were open, they would put me in a company and I would float around. That's the job of a strategist. I'd float around. I would talk to the CEOs, the CFO. I'd talk to the marketing directors, the staff, the team, all of the people involved. Heck, it might even be the janitor. And I'm floating around these businesses, collecting all this information and data and analyzing and creative strategies, putting them together and building frameworks and funnels and pipelines and you name it. And wow. And then we get this magic to happen. It's 4th of July, grand finale all the time, fireworks, explosions. It's great. And that's because they didn't limit my reach, my ability to grow. They didn't put me in a box, and they didn't put time on me either. I'll talk about that. And the companies that didn't understand that, and wanted to control me in a way or run me through a gauntlet like, oh, I got two of you. We're going to run you both through and the best one wins. When creatives don't work that way. We work under pressure. We're critical thinkers, but at the same time, we're not competitive. We don't want to be competitive. We don't see each other as a threat. We see each other as an advantage, an opportunity, a prosperous moment, if you will. And we're privileged and honored if we get the opportunity to work with another super creative. We're like, oh, this is cool. But we also know that we don't just rush into the room like, let's go. We come at it and we leave room and space for each other to throw our creative ideas because we know we have to collide in a way, but it has to blend. It has to blend to make the next level. And a lot of super creatives don't really want to share the stage, if you will, because there's so much going on. They don't like when people enter that territory, if you will. They don't like when people put their hands in a pot. But when another super creative comes into the picture, they're like, okay, we need to work together and make this even better for everybody. And it does work. So some of the companies that I've worked at would put these restrictions on, and they would let a lot of people put their hand in the pot. I'm talking underskilled individuals put their hand in the project pot just to say that they did something. And when they're thinking that, a lot of them would also like change the tasks midway through, something we've been working on for months, weeks, and they all of a sudden change it. They think that they're pivoting when they're not pivoting. They're not pivoting at all. In reality, what they're doing is just letting those underskilled individuals manipulate the project pot. And it just falls apart. So much money has been wasted on multiple projects that never got finished because of that very thing. And they think that they saved, like they didn't save money. They didn't save a task. They didn't do anything. When you have something and you give it to a super creative, they go for it. When someone give me something to come across my desk, I'd create something amazing. I had different tasks come across my desk that I had to do besides just creative stuff. Like I would have to, obviously as a head of productions, I would oversee quality. I would look at the quality and I'd check it and say, okay, this is good to go. Like the quality checks, I was the last person on the list to check it. I'm like, if it lined up and it was great, send this off, it's ready to go. Because I did my due diligence at the very beginning of that project, and the ones that I didn't actually have my hand on, like I didn't actually create, but I had to instruct the team and give them the strategies and ideas and the concepts of what this has got to be. I did the due diligence at the beginning for them to follow those tasks to create this amazing project. And when it came down the line, I checked it, all those things lined up. They might not have been perfect or exactly what I envisioned, but they were effective. And I said, okay, these work, and the quality was there, boom, send it off. If anything came back that wasn't quality, maybe the audio wasn't on point, I'd question that. Why? Oh, it's done through a Zoom. Can we make it better? Have you ran every single thing that you think you can run on this audio to edit it, to mix and master it, everything we've ever done? Have we tried it all to make this awesome? Now, at the top companies, they'd be like, all right, we'll go back to the drawing board, figure out how to do that. Or we'll hire another expert to figure out how to engineer this. Or we'll invest in the software to make this better. They didn't question what I was saying because there's a reason for what I'm trying to uphold quality on the production side. So the experience is well received, and that experience locks them in and just makes everything just so much bigger. So those bigger companies would do that. They would invest in that, come back, and they would fix the audio as best they could. And on the other side of these things, the companies that decide to push back and question, things that I would create in these businesses, I was like, really? Like, I've been brought in and paid top dollar to get you the quality. And the same person basically writing the check is also saying, just pass it through. Well, why am I here? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you giving me top dollar for my skills and expertise and my know-how and my suggestions to give you what you need to give that big explosion, to make that amazing moment, or to build the brand, but yet you're saying, just pass it through. Instead of just saying, you know what, we're going to get it right. And I mean, yeah, it might sound simple to, a Zoom audio, but if the audio comes back and it's bad, I want to know why. And then I say, well, if we can't fix it and make it the best, then we do our best with this audio, but the next one, we're shipping out a microphone. We're shipping out a setup to anybody that we're going to interview just in case, because maybe it was on their end. Maybe they used an iPhone, headset Or maybe they didn't have a headset. Maybe they didn't have headphones. Maybe their microphone was bad. No, we're gonna match that quality. And we're gonna ship out this setup. We did that. We'd ship out cameras, light kits, and microphones. With instructions on how to build it out, because we were going to be doing a lot of business with these key people, whether it's another celebrity or if it was a spokesperson, another CEO, or maybe it was just a consumer of the product that we were selling. We would ship them this and say, hey, here's the equipment. And this idea, this is what we were doing. And when I go to these smaller companies that thought they were playing big, but they weren't. They were still spending top dollar, but they're not playing. Like, they didn't understand the concept of how you get to from a couple $100 million to $1 billion. Like, like it was that different. The super creative, I'd come in and I'd try to send out this equipment. I'd say, we need this. And they'd be like, no, that's a waste of money. No, it's not. Like, these are strategies. And so, yeah, you would look at something like a Zoom audio and be like, what is that going to do? Or the quality's bad. Or like, a Photoshop graphic wasn't perfect. And when I mean perfect, I mean just like you can clearly tell it was poor Photoshopped. And I push on that. I'm like, listen, as a graphic designer, like, again, I came in as a super creative with these companies. So, like, put me up against any graphic designer in these companies and I'll outwork them. I'll do what I do best. Put me up against any audio engineer and I'll mix and master that and I'll do what I do best. Put me up with anybody who's doing podcasting and I'll do what I do best. Put me up with video production and I'll do what I do best. Put me against strategists and I'll do what I do best. And so I'm sharing this with you because if you feel like you're underpaid and undervalued, then there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. There's something I want to touch base with you to help you get more into your abundance zone. And you know what that zone is like. You know what it's about. And also know when you're being stepped on, when to step out, when you're being appreciated, and when to lean into it. And so these are some of the things that the companies would do that would either serve them or destroy them. And so a super creative becomes a pillar to your business. And if you have one, if you're fortunate enough and extremely, extremely fortunate enough to have a super creative on your team, you are lucky. Because let me tell you something, super creatives do not want to work for you. They want to be a part of a bigger picture and do amazing things. They don't want limits or restrictions, and they usually go out to create their own businesses. They figured it out so they could be creative in their own space. And if you have one of these lucky, rare individuals on your team, I really hope that you're valuing them. Now, speaking to the entrepreneurs, I hope you're valuing them. And so here's the other thing that a lot of these companies and entrepreneurs would do that was a big mistake. One of the biggest factors was time. They would put a time restriction on me. Or I've seen it with other creatives, super creatives. I've seen this. I would go to these events and we would do what we need to do. And then after dinners, or we would get together and I would meet other super creatives and we'd all have the same stories to tell. And the thing, like, can you believe this? Like, nah, I'm going to be doing something else. Like, there's no way, and so I'd see this and I'm like, wow, it just, some of us just had, the guts to go for it and say, no, we're not going to do it and stand up for ourselves. So if they put time on us, that's a big no-no. Like when you go to Vegas, there's no clocks in the casinos. They don't want you to know what time it is. They don't want you to know how much time you're spending here. They want you to be focused on trying to win, having fun, having experience by, spending, winning, spending. And so a few of these companies and entrepreneurs would try to put a time limit on me. Here's the time. You got to work in this time. That doesn't work. Nope. Threw it right out. I'm like, you go ahead, let me go. Because it doesn't work that way. Or they would also say, you have a time restriction on this project. Now listen, I'm not talking about deadlines. I'm saying like impossible tasks. And you got to get this done. So now you're putting a limitation on me by, adding a time limit, putting a time restriction on the project, and also give me an impossible task by putting me in a box and saying this is how I have to make this happen. And you think you're going to get a good positive result out of that? It's not going to happen. See, just a creative, not even talking about a super creative, just a creative in general will deliver on time every time. There's a deadline, they'll meet the deadline. It might not be right at the beginning. It might be at the very tail end, like seconds before the deadline, and then there it is. But you can't just go out there and tell a creative, hey, create. Like when you're a super creative and you're really in your zone, If you're in that abundant zone, the stuff just happens. It comes to you. But if someone comes into that zone and they're like, hey, and they start barking orders and putting restrictions and building a little box for you to think inside of and operate in, and then they throw a time on that, and now you're aware of time, they destroy the abundant zone. So here's what my workday would look like at the very tippy top with the highest pay grade you can imagine and being extremely appreciated and paid well. They'd say, we have this event coming up, or we have this project that needs to get done. Here is the deadline. That's all they would give me. Here's the project. Here's the deadline. We're excited to see what you come up with. Because they know that this is not a hat they want to wear. And they give that task to me. And they know that they might give me a little context of what they have, like what they want. And that it's not going to be coming from this point of view. The other entrepreneurs that didn't understand this, they would be like, this is what the event is, and I want to make all this money, and like we're gonna have these people in there, and they're gonna give their, we're gonna share following, and that's how that's gonna work. And I need you to give it a name, and then give it a task, and then I want you to create content, and then I want you to hire the right people, yada yada yada. All I'm hearing is blah blah blah, money money money, deceiving. That's all I'm hearing. And even in the person's body language, whether it's an individual entrepreneur or their team. People are like, yeah, this is what we got to get done. Got to get done? Take that to an entrepreneur or a company that's passionate about what they want to achieve, the higher purpose. And they're going to be like, Zebulon, I got to talk to you. Do you have time? Yeah. All right, listen, this is my idea. I was thinking about doing this. And you just see them light up. They're like, we're going to serve so many people doing this. And this is going to change everything. And the team's excited about it. The team wants to speak to you about it. And I have a small micro meeting with the team, whether it's in Zoom or in person. And the team's like, Zebulon. And they're racing to get the idea out to me of what they want to throw in on it. Like, all right, we've given you all our ideas on what this event, what we envision it to be. Oh, we're so excited about this. Let us know. Here you go. Bam. And then once I get the task, let's just say that was given to me on Monday. Monday, I absorb it. I write down some ideas. I'll bubble it out. Sketch it out. Maybe it's a production thing. I'll list all the production content. I think this would be good. The marketing around it, because that's where I start. And then I might be like, oh, what is this? If it's an event, what is that event? What's the experience got to be? Or maybe it's a product. Okay. I'll look at the deadline. Like, okay. And I'm like, okay, I got plenty of time to get super creative. By Thursday, maybe I'm at the park walking. I'll be taking a walk. What I'm saying? Like I'm working for the company, but I'm working for the company in a creative zone where my brain doesn't just shut off after 5:00 and I don't think about the company. I'm like, hey, I need a break. I'm going to go take a walk. Like I said, I'm taking this 3-mile walk and I'm getting in my zone. I'm feeling my energy come up and I'm thinking about everything from me. Boom, boom, boom. My energy, I love it. Boom, get my motivation up. And then I'm starting to think about the project and I'm like, okay, this is going to be great. And I get inspired and I take notes and I come back and I start working a little bit and then I take a break. So what might look like I'm only spending maybe 2-3 hours a day on this, but I'm really spending entire days on it. It's just got to flow. It has to flow. So, 5:00, everyone's shut off. They're going home. They're not thinking about the business anymore. Come 9:00, 2 a.m, I'm like, oh, that's an idea. Go back up, write on my whiteboard, jump on the computer, write it out. Maybe that takes me to 3-4 a.m. And then I crash out. I get up late. I take a walk, whatever. I go do my things I got to do. I'm still thinking. So I'm 24/7 on, basically, because I was given an enlightening idea of something that needs to manifest in something big. And I am searching for the idea that's going to be the breakthrough. And it hasn't come to me yet. So we might get, we're doing all this and we're building things. Trust me, we're building it out. And, by the, second week, I've already got production team, or whether I'm filming it myself or drafting it out. I'm meeting with the marketing directors or whatever, the team, or I've put together a task and sent them into their creative space, their abundance zone, to group up and create the commercial and come back to me and say, hey, this is what we did. This is some of the challenge we experienced. It didn't flow right, or it did flow amazing. Or what do you think of this? And maybe it's like, hey, so-and-so did it, but he or she wasn't feeling the lead role. They felt like they could do better. Okay, well, what do we need to do? Well, I recommend maybe get them, maybe it's more acting classes, coaching. What is it they need help with their voice projection? What is it? Voiceover work? What is it? oh, you know what? Why don't we shift them over here and let's go find like this part that we are creating. Maybe it actually is a celebrity role. Let's go find that celebrity. And then, of course, I find myself in Zoom meetings or in meetings with, other people that make moves in a company, and I have to convince them why this idea is important to spend this much money to bring the celebrity in, or to get this person extra coaching, or to get this extra product or prop or whatever, or to go this direction and invest more into this project. And that's the point where I'm probably going to get the no's. But again, I come at it with that energy, and they have the energy too. And they go, you know what, Zebulon, we see that you've spent a lot of time in this. We clearly understand the value of what you're saying. And we might not understand how it's going to pan out, but we do trust the process, and we know it works, and we know what you do works. So sure, we're going to approve that. Or they'll go, let's approve half right now. And that can be frustrating, but once you learn the business, you understand, like, okay, if I could just get you to approve half of the funding for that project. Because once I get that half down, I show you what we've done, you're going to give me the other half for sure. You might even give me a bonus on that just to make more things flow. And so companies that understood that, we'd get the massive results all the time. And listen, we didn't have, a whole hit record, if you will. We had multiple failures. But the difference was every time we failed, we'd go back to the drawing board, scrap, or take what we needed and rebuild. We didn't go every time to the top and go, didn't work out, wasted money. No. We said, okay, what did we lose on this? Okay, let's shift gears. Okay, boom. But the companies that didn't understand this, they might throw more money at it, and they were failing because they were putting it in a box, putting a time limit on it, controlling me or other creators, or shifting gears and allowing other people that were underskilled in putting their hands in the project pot. And they were destroying all the things that they were putting money on. I had this one company that literally spent, $500,000 on marketing. And then someone else had their hand in the project pot and decided to say, we got to change images because the certain individual we were working with on the other side of this project, they said that they didn't like their image that way. And really what it came down to is that individual that was underskilled just decided they wanted to have a say in this and said that they personally don't like how this individual looks on the ads. And so they asked all of the production and graphic design team and marketing team to shift gears and change the image after they've already spent the money on marketing. Pull it all back down, recreate it, put it all back up, spend more money, double the money. And I'm like, this didn't come past my desk. I'm the final approval. And I don't say that as like puff my chest. I'm saying like, there's no reason for this. What was the strategy? Show me why this was changed and how it affects the outcome and how it aligns with the vision that we've already created and the strategy we created. It doesn't. You just want to put your hand in the pot. So you say you did something in this project so you can actually keep your job because you suck at what you do. I'm sorry, right? You don't put in the time to deserve that ability to be able to do that. And so the companies would just let people do this. And they had a lot of these underskilled individuals crossing into different departments that had no business doing that when they should have been, they're good at what they do there, but they're not good over here. And that's what I mean by underskilled and not good at what they do. Like at this, you're not good at this. You're great at that. You're not good, you're great. We still need you because that's where we need that. Everyone has a structure in the businesses. We need that. If someone's good at just email marketing, bam, we're going to let them do their thing. But the problem is they bring someone who has no skill in email marketing, give them the title, and they give them email marketing, Facebook marketing, like you name it. They have multiple hats on and titles, and they puff them up, and they don't really have any of the skill, and they haven't learned, earned, or developed that, which will bring me into my next thing in just a minute. We're going to talk about companies hiring and demanding degrees. We're going to talk about that. But I want to finish up on this part right here because it's so important for the super creatives and creatives to learn this. As you're moving forward into the career that you want, the workforce, or you're with an entrepreneur or a business, are you feeling appreciated? Are you feeling valued? Are you feeling respected? It's very, like, how do they make you feel? I'm not talking about when the going gets tough in a business and you have to deliver and, you are running closer to the quotas and you're down on the line here and you're like, hey, you know what? The deadline's right here. Like those are rough. It doesn't mean everything is that smooth, but I'm saying the creative process to get it initially going and foresee the next level, that is a flow. And you have to let the content creator or that creative strategist or the creative or the super creative do what they need to do within their wheelhouse and the way they function. You don't get it on your time. You get it on the creator's time. It doesn't come to you. It will not come to you. It'll come to the creative that is in that, the special people. Like, these are individuals that are gifted with this creativity. Not everyone has that. Trust me, I've searched. I just thought everybody has creativity. And there's people that are very creative, and there's people that have no creativity, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you have no creativity and you're listening to this, that's okay. You have other things that we don't have. And I can tell you what that is. Time management skills, organization skills, a lot of like things that you would learn throughout school that was very easy to you. Creatives struggled with a lot of these things. A lot of creatives struggle with math or spelling or grammar, time management. But there's one thing that you will find super tidy and super neat is our workspace. It'll be super clean. We don't want chaos. We don't want hectic. You don't move it out of place either. We'll know. Because we've designed this space for us. So when we're critical thinking, moving very fast, and we move our hands over here, we're not knocking over the coffee mug or the pencil holder, right? There's no clocks in our space. There's no clutter. Everything is where it needs to be. And that is how we have to cope with the super creative process, because it gets overwhelming because our brains don't shut off. They are overloaded and overstimulated, and they constantly think. And it works great when we're put in the environment to deliver, because we can just work in our zone and deliver. But as soon as you start to put restrictions on us or ask us questions that are not related to the overall success of the project, they're just dumb questions, or you throw, these you put us in a box, right? You destroy the abundance zone. Get out of my abundant zone. That's what you need to tell anybody that tries to come in. If you're going to enter the zone, you got to be abundant. You got to be ready to play at this level of expansion at a very high rate. And you got to be ready to have some fun and do spontaneous stuff. That's how you get that. I've had companies come to me and say, create this crazy video that we love the video you did. Can you do it for us? And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's create this crazy video. It's going to be awesome. The first idea I throw them, they go, oh, that's a little too extreme. We're so scared it's going to ruin our brand. No way. I'm like, well, that's not how you get that. You get that by listening to what I'm saying, because I see it outside the box. I know what's going to, you got to take risks. If you don't take risks, you're just going to be mediocre. You got to stir the pot. But then you got people that are not skilled, and they think they know what to do, and they stir the pot, and they just completely wreak havoc in the business. I might take risks, but I take calculated risks. We're not just jumping off the side of the mountain with no parachute, no plan. Like, there's a plan here. There's something that's been strategically strategized here that will happen at some point. It might not happen when you want it, but it's going to happen. You might get banged up when you're falling down that mountain. But at some point, the chute's going to come out, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be amazing. I feel the same way in life. We take high risks. That's how we live. We live extreme. That's how we live. That's a super creative. Super important to know this, because I've seen a lot of my fellow super creatives or content creators fall into, depression and just, mental health. And it's all because they've been really just taken out of the abundance zone and put in a box, and restrictions strapped to them, and, a clock and a watch stuffed on their wrist and right in their face, and said, demand, demand, demand. And that's not how we work. It's not how we work. So that leads me to the next chapter, I should say, in this podcast. And that is, so recently I've been going on LinkedIn, and I've been looking at what's out there. Just trying to open the horizon for other things that I can get involved in. And I think it's going to be fun. And I look out there and I see these companies hiring. And so I did a few experiments. I'm not going to share them so much on this podcast, because I haven't been approved to do that without getting in any type of legal issues, because I don't want to put my foot in some dirty water here, right? I don't want to muddy the waters either. So I don't want to share too much of what the experiments have been on LinkedIn, but I will say a little bit about my thoughts on LinkedIn. And this is just not just LinkedIn. I'm talking like there's Indeed, all the other, anywhere that a company is putting out a post to hire someone. So I want to talk about these jobs, these companies hiring for these jobs, and they're requiring a degree. Now, first off, let me just say something. I myself have well over 17 years of experience in the field. So I'm going to approach this a little differently. I'm not disregarding anybody who went to school, has a serious education, and a degree. Degrees are great. They're amazing for certain jobs. For instance, I definitely think someone should have a degree in business if they're doing business. Like if they're a head of business or running a business, or they should have a degree in marketing if you're doing strictly marketing. Like if my resume said I'm just a marketer, then yes, I need to have whatever that is. Do you want a master's, a bachelor's, master's, associate, whatever you need? I need to present that. I need to go get that. But a lot of these companies are hiring for strategists and video productions and content creation and chief executive strategists, whatever, right? Like that realm. And they want degrees. Now, there's a thing that I see here going on, and it's one thing to have it listed in your job description because you want to attract the right potential teammate to your company, someone who's going to really maximize that investment you're going to invest in them. So you want to attract the people that have taken it serious. I get that. But when you get down to the interview process and you find someone who has got all of the field work experience and blows away all of the competition that may have the degree, and they have all of the skills necessary, but they don't have the degree of the requirement, that one thing. Most companies that are smart will go, hey, we understand you don't have this degree. Maybe it's a requirement. We want to find out why. You fit everything we need. We still want you. Come on in. We see what you've done. We see you have a track record. It's amazing. We want you. The other companies that are making a really poor decision, and they're missing out on tremendous opportunity to really bring on one of these very rare individuals. And that is when they look at, and I have friends that write me and they'll be like, hey, I don't know what to do. I have all these skills. I blew away all the competitors, and they went with someone else that was extremely underskilled and with no experience. And they're like, I'm dumbfounded. I'm like, it's a dumb company. It's a stupid company. Whoever's hiring this is a stupid company. The person who got that seat that's hiring you is probably also underskilled just because they hold the piece of paper. So what I'm saying is they would look at you and they go, hey, you know what? I know you got all this experience and skills, but we really need that degree, that piece of paper. That makes no sense to me. And so I've been experimenting with a lot of this without going into detail. And I've had a few companies sit down with me and they go, hey, we really would like to hire you, but you don't have this degree. I'm like, are you like production in general, just strictly production? I'm a world-renowned commercial videographer and GlideCam master operator. I don't say that to brag. I say that I earned my spot with that. I'm rated by the industry, hand-selected. That means my work has been seen and has delivered exceptionally over time. And you can look at the quality of my work and all the different, I've worked across fields and I've seen virtually everything you can think of and created so much content. And I've seen the results as a track record behind that. Literally have an unmatched track record with just as a video content creator, as a producer, as a videographer doing commercial. And I got turned down from a position just because I didn't have a degree. They wanted a 4-year degree, a bachelor's, up against my 17 plus years as a commercial videographer. And that's just that skill alone. Like, seriously, that's just holding a camera, knowing how to direct it, knowing how to use your camera, lighting, how to draft up a story, commercial story, all that stuff, you name it, how to edit. And I'm skilled on multiple editing softwares. I got mini certificates for these things too, which they don't hold up because you have to have this degree from college. I've learned more in my 17 plus years in the field just in production alone, not even talking about the creative strategist, marketing, and all the other stuff I've learned, working with the high ups. And plus that's another thing, the track record of companies and brands who trusted in me, who invested hundreds of thousands, if not millions, into the projects that I've been hired to work on. And they're like, nah, obviously that's an underskilled individual in that position of that company. But it's not just one company. That's the scary thing. It's not just me either. Across the board, I'm seeing this. And so I say, get rid of your degree requirements and open the door for these creatives to come in and watch your business blow up. I'm not saying choose a creative over someone who's served their time and earned their degree. That's fine. But when you're really looking for something that has, I'm talking a boatload of requirements with that degree, that literally, if you look at this, the only way to achieve that is to have field experience, not someone who just came out of college or someone who came out of college and only has 4 years in the field. Like, that's different. But if you're saying, hey, we're a company, we're growing, we're looking for someone to really just hold the camera, and we appreciate if you had a degree, it's a requirement. We'll just say it's a requirement. And there's four bullet points of tasks requirements they need to have. That's different. But these companies are asking for huge list of tasks. They want you to throw Hail Marys every time, and they're going to really put an inexperienced person they need the field experience to be able to do what you want. Those type of jobs. We're not talking like your $30,000, $40,000 salaries. We're talking your $150,000, $350,000 salaries for this position. And you're going to want a bachelor's over someone with 17 plus years of experience in multiple fields and track record. Like, it doesn't make sense. And so I've seen this in the LinkedIn and Indeed profiles and other searches, and I've called them up and sent in my amazing, immaculate resume with cover letter, got past the bots, had a real person review it, had the meetings, and didn't get it. And I'm like, wow, like this is scary. And so I say this, I bring this up because to all your content creators and entrepreneurs, if you're running into this wall, I would say keep trying it until if you really want to find your place in a company and a team, you'll find it. You'll find it. But if it's really weighing on you mentally and it's making you feel less than, it's making you think that you're not as good as you are, like, no way. Like, go create your own thing. Create a business that dwarfs them. Go create a business so big they have to live in your shadow. Like, that's the other thing. When you give a super creative, when you piss us off and you get us roughed up and you don't show us that we're wanted, like, we will go create the thing, the very thing that you're trying to get. We'll just create it overnight. The thing that you've been working for 20 plus years to build, we'll build it overnight and we'll show you. Like, that's just how it is. And then we'll build our own team. We'll be like, wow. But then we're going to move on from that. Like, well, cool, we did that. And we're going to move on to something else. And your company's not going to exist anymore. Like, and I want all these businesses to realize that in these companies, like, don't be that way. If you're going to build a company, somewhere at the top, I'm speaking to you, someone who has owned a company, they have their business. Why do you employ these people? Just because they're going to make the engine run and they're going to get you paid? Or did you employ them because you're trying to build a really good team, almost like a family? And you're going to have people that you want to spend time with because that's the most valuable thing we have. And why waste it with anybody else besides people that we really enjoy being with? So search out those individuals, the personality, the skill set, and the know-how. That's what you should be looking for when you're hiring people. Not just putting down a restriction saying this is something they have to have. Now, again, I respect the people that spent the time going to college and do it as a super creative. There's no way I could do that. I tried that. I went to college. I went to school for psychology. It was very hard for me to go through school, whether online or in person, because my brain's doing 1,000,000 miles a minute. And I need results and I need to create things now, not later. And so there's a time and place for that. Of course, you want someone in your business that can think long-term and plan things out and be very organized. Those are the people that help us creatives move through the business as well with you and create those next level things. I turn to my left and right. I have people that are not super creatives, but they're people that are become pillars to me as a super creative in those businesses to help them, and they help me. They're like, hey, you know what, Zebulon, listen, you spent a lot of time on this project. I think right now what you have is amazing. Like, it's crushing it. Now you're starting to overthink it. You're starting to add more to it, and it's all amazing. It's just going to make it bigger, but I think what we got here is perfect. Do you agree? And I might look at them like, you know what, you're right. I'm moving into perfectionist, and I can't do that. I don't want to do that. It's where it is great. Save some room for an upgrade for a 2.0, right? Save some room for that next level. That's what we will do. And that's what I encourage you to do. So if you're looking for these jobs and you're looking for this stuff, and if you're a company and it's putting a restriction, like a bachelor's degree for something, and you want the world from them, like, listen, you gotta think about something. Someone like me with 17 plus years of experience, I've weathered storms that you cannot prepare for. How do you prepare for it when you're working for a company that's run by a celebrity, that is built around a celebrity entrepreneur, and they mess up out there? How do you shift gears? How do you shift gears with the production team? Be like, oh, so-and-so they just messed up big time, and we got to figure out how to keep the brand alive while they're taking hits, while they're taking hits in the media. How do we position ourselves to keep spreading the good positivity and avoid the negativity and just work through it together? Or you know what? Something happens in the industry and you got to pivot in the company and like the whole world shifts and they're going off for another product or something and we got to pivot last minute. You can't prepare for that. Or you know what? This company got sued. Someone else in the company made a mistake. They didn't have a disclaimer. They didn't have something right, or they didn't do a product right, and we're getting huge backlash. How do you pivot? How do you change? Especially when the economy takes a shift. Or when you're looking at social media and there's a new platform that comes out. How do you lean into that? How do you shift around that? There's so many. The list goes on. How do you maneuver in the field? Or like, let's say it's a technical issue. You're out there and you're doing big next level productions and something goes down, something doesn't work. I've met people that are running events like for big music groups. They're just they're just the sound guy. No, that individual's got like 30 years of sound experience. He knows every chord. He knows what those chords do. He knows how much those chords cost and where to get the chords. He's got a guy, right? He's got backup chords. He knows where to run them. He knows if there's a noise in the microphone, where it's coming from. If there's something coming from, like a static from a light, he knows what it's all tied together. He knows if you do this sound, that light goes off, this pyrotechnic blows off. He knows how to set it up on stage so it's not in the way. Like, this guy has got experience that the average person wouldn't have. His brain is wired to this. And that's why that person is the same person there for that many years and is in high demand. And only works in their abundant zone because that's where they're most passionate about. And a mistake at that level with that type of money, with that type of production value and the people involved, it'd be catastrophic. And so I've reached a level in my career where I was at that point where I was like, hey, there's things I can and can't do because if I do this and, this is a failure, it's a big failure. So then I have to create a strategy around that. And we don't do plan Bs. When I've been working with these businesses, we don't have plan B. We don't want to fall back on something. We got to get it right the first time. And if we don't, it is a failure. But it doesn't mean it's an ultimate failure. We do find a way to strategize to get back up. But there's no like, hey, if this doesn't work out, we're going to flip into this. No. If anything, the plan B's fall into when this works out, what's plan B on the workout, not on the failure. Like, oh, it spilled over. It's amazing. Like, they're loving it. We got so much traction, too many people trying to come to the event, or the product is sold off the shelves. Like, what's plan B for success? Well, okay, we're going to do this little thing over here, right? Or this product or service is maxed out. It's at its peak. Okay, I know how to bring life back into it by creating this over here. And that's what a super creative does. Respect your super creatives. And I'm not saying that just from me. I'm just sharing this because who else is going to talk about it? A lot of super creatives are, they're introverted. I'm an ambivert. I'm like, I got to get out there. But a lot of them aren't like go-getters because they want to be in their abundance zone all the time. Well, my abundance zone is only going to light up more the more I expand it. So I got to get out there outside of my comfort zone, if you will. And so I want to share that with you because the bottom line is to all my creatives, again, just keep moving. Don't get stuck looking or being underpaid or undervalued. Build your own, find the right fit. And when you find your right fit, make sure that you triple down on the contract agreement and make sure it's all there. Because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. A lot of people lie to you, tell you they're going to do this for you, and they want to burn you out. You got to avoid burnout. And I talked about that on a few episodes ago. Go back and check it out. You don't want to burn out, right? But this is something I wanted to share with all you on my adventure of success and abundance and creating the life that I want, creating the life that I really want to have and that I must have. And it all comes down to not just creating it, but designing the life that you want. And if I don't share it with you, how are you going to design it? How are we going to change this world? How are we going to shift it so more people are really connecting and not just seeing what's going online and stop spreading the stuff. Stop spreading the soup, if you will. Stop throwing it everywhere. And I mean that by listen to last week's episode about the social media and mental health. Stop tuning into things that don't serve you and stop spreading gossip that isn't real, or stop spreading things that doesn't if you're telling someone this, what does it really serve that individual? Does it serve both of you, and does it serve the greater good? Hey, did you see what happened? Does it do anything? Why talk about it? I'm not here to talk about things that don't serve the greater good, myself or you. Let's talk about something that moves us forward and have fun. Let's share a moment together. Let's create and design the life for us. And I want all of you, whether you're a creative or a non-creative, or you're an entrepreneur and you've been making these mistakes, or you're an entrepreneur and you have this new company and you want to hire the right people, again, find your abundance zone. And that is simple. You find your abundance zone by going and working in a place that is fulfilling for you. It's your passion. And when that passion aligns with something that you love to do and you're able to work on that, now you're able to serve at your highest and you can give more. Now you're in the abundance zone. That's amazing. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I didn't even throw any breaks or commercials in here. I mean, geez, look at that. I didn't even get to do it. I got to do it. I got to do one. And I'm going to leave you with a simple thing, because if you're learning more about podcasting and you love podcasts, you like my podcast, I have been talking to people and sharing ideas and insights on how to podcast. And that was one of my tasks as I moved up the success ladder. I started creating podcasts. I was like, ooh, what can my creative brain do with podcasting? And now here I am with my own podcasting. I will say this before I play this one little plug here. When I started podcasting, and I still do, I geeked out over all the microphones. I love it. And the gear and equipment, it looks great. But I remember when I ordered all my stuff, I ordered all my mixers and the microphones, and I'm at a point in my career where I can invest in this in myself. And I got it all laid out. It's set here literally I think 2 months. I just looked at it. I never touched it. I never touched this stuff. I was like, man, I want a podcast. I got all the equipment. It looks amazing. It's what I've always wanted. And then I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And I did it. Now I'm in that gap and I love it and I grow with it. So I'm now teaching other people how to podcast and how to take it to a next level and podcast from start to success. So let me share this with you right now so you can also take advantage of this opportunity for my group.
Okay, once again, if you would like to join me inside the Podcast Community Mastermind Facebook group, it is absolutely free. All you have to do is go to thepodcastintherough.com/learn. That is thepodcastintherough.com/learn, and get inside the group and learn how to podcast from start to success. All right, if you're enjoying this podcast episode, I would love for you to give me a rating and review about this podcast by heading over to thepodcastintherough.com and scrolling to the bottom of the page and leaving us a review. Or if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a star rating and a review. It would help us reach more people and get them to learn about the Podcast in the Rough. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it.
All right. And I really do hope you guys take a moment and get inside my private Facebook podcast community mastermind group. Okay. Just get inside there, because it's a lot of fun, and I'm really trying to grow this even more. It's not a huge community, and I don't want it to be really big. I'm enjoying the beginning stages of this group before hopefully one day it does take off. But obviously there's going to be a plan B for takeoff, right? Not for failure, but for plan B for takeoff is going to be how I can just help more people and reach more people. So I really do look forward to that, and I really want all of you guys to take advantage of these opportunities that I'm sharing with you right here on this podcast. But again, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Podcast in the Rough. I'll see you next week, or talk to you next week. Have a great weekend.
This is the Podcast in the Rough.